Done again.
Here we are. Good evening, everyone. Whatever time or time zone you're tuning in to watch our Mauls, Balls and All podcast. Going out live on Facebook and YouTube. And joining us this evening, we hope, joining us this evening amongst our usual crew. We have Peter Burke, we have Claire, we have James Grennan, and our special guest this evening is, and I'm going to hopefully Noel, I'll get this all right, former Leinster under 20, Ireland under 20, Sharks backs coach, and now you're currently with Bordeaux. Have I missed anything there, Noel?
No, still, no, that's fine. Yeah. All good, great to be here.
Excellent. Thanks so much for. I know you're a busy man with Bordeaux. I noticed there. I did my little bit of homework, and I noticed that your most previous match was there against Toulon, and you came away with a victory.
Nice one.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we played Toulon on Sunday night. Probably I had a bit of experience of it with the Irish 20s playing late, but yeah, it's a mad kickoff time. 7 minutes past 9 on a Friday night, so or on a Sunday night. So yeah, it's a long old weekend waiting for the kickoff. So it's prime time in the top 14. Yeah, it was a win. We didn't play particularly well. We've had a brief pre-season, I guess. We started on the 1st of July. We played 2 pre-season games, and yeah, we've had 3 rounds of the top 14 now. Thankfully, we got a bit of a break for the World Cup, and it all kicks back in late October, where I think we go 17 games on the bounce after that. Yeah. So it's a bit of a marathon.
Are you happy so far then, with your start of the 3 games? You're happy you're going in the right direction with the way you want to do things and the way to get teams playing?
Yeah, listen, there's obviously always a challenge with a new team, but an added challenge for me with the language as well. So yeah, listen, it's been a positive start. The club have been great. The group have been really, really good. We managed to win. Obviously, the home games are a big thing in the top 14. We managed to win our 2 home games against Cast and Toulon. Our first game was against Racing, we lost, unfortunately, up in La Défense. But yeah, overall, it's been positive. It's been a bit of a crash course in everything, and as you say, you're trying to build habits and trying to build a different type of attack maybe than what the boys have done, and obviously we're doing it with quite a few players away as well. So all in all, I think it's been a reasonable start. Yeah.
Can I ask you there, Noel? Have you got any tips from Raj in the Cork accent French? La fucking opportunity.
Yeah, listen. It's a challenge. There's no point in saying anything else, because obviously first and foremost you're in France. You've got to try and speak in French. We've got to do so with I've got a very strong Clare accent. He's got a very strong Cork accent. So I'll be honest, it's tiring. Like jeepers, because you're trying to think in French. You're trying to translate stuff. For me, I didn't do it in school. I think hats off to him. I have huge admiration for obviously for what he's achieved with La Rochelle. But even that, trying to present and trying to motivate in French, it's not easy. It's not easy. So I'd excuse the few F's here and there that crept in.
Excellent stuff. I just wanted to say something to you, Noel, there, like your background, and of course, again, correct me if I'm wrong. Am I right in saying you'd never played the game? You come from a non-rugby background. Is that your?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I guess I'm an unusual case is probably the best description for it. I spoke about it recently with somebody. I don't know how many sessions I've done. I just said I've been coaching since 2005, 2004 was my first got involved. I'm a PE teacher by trade. I taught PE and maths, but I got started coaching in Glenstall in 2004. So whatever that is, 19 years ago now. So that's a lot of session plans and reviews and previews and games and everything else in between. So certainly been a very unorthodox journey, and I guess it probably carried that through even now. I suppose going to South Africa is not exactly a common path. Albeit Felix Phyllis Jones was down there previously. So yeah, an unusual journey, but I guess one that has been an adventure as much as anything else.
No, I have 2 questions for you. Right, 2 questions.
Yeah.
Sorry, Pete. Sorry, Pete. No, go on. When you took up the Sharks, or when you were offered the Sharks, I don't know when exactly you took them up. It was prime COVID. There was riots going on in Durban because of the whole Jacob Zuma thing, where the Sharks are based. You're sitting at home, and people are saying to you, "Are you fucking nuts now? What are you doing? Like, we're in the middle of COVID. You've just gone to... There's riots, people killing themselves in the streets of Durban, where you're going to be based." Did you ever think, Jesus, did I actually make the right decision here? Or how did that play through in your head?
Yeah. Like, obviously, the COVID piece probably wasn't, maybe as strong. I'm not sure, but the riot certainly was a real, because I just agreed the deal with them, and it just started to kind of surface around the TV. And I was talking to my parents one night, and they're like, where exactly did you say you were going? Well, it was Cape Town, was it? And I was like, no, it's Durban. All right. They're like, what are you doing? This is mental. This is, like it was underreported, to be honest, up here. You know, when we got out there, it was absolutely chaotic. Like, it was, I think, the place had literally burnt to the ground, really. Obviously a lot of riots, a lot of looting. Obviously as a country, South Africa has an awful lot of challenges. Don't get me wrong, it's a beautiful place. We had a fantastic time there. I couldn't speak highly enough of the people, but there's a real energy crisis in the country. Every day we were without power for anywhere between 4 and 12 hours. At the end, it was almost 12 hours a day. So, like, people are completely unfamiliar with that up in Europe. But, like, in South Africa today, the power would have been turned off for anywhere between 6 and 12 hours. So for just everyday life, cooking dinner for kids, showers, everything. And people will, they're starting to they go off the grids. A lot of people have inverter batteries. A lot of people have, just different ways of surviving. But it gives a little bit of an insight into what the everyday life is like for a South African. Their adaptability, their resilience is absolutely remarkable. And it was the same with the riots. I arrived on my own. I have a wife and 3 kids. They came much later, and that was certainly the right thing to do. But I was like, what's the safety procedure here? The manager collected me at the airport. What do we do? And I said, oh no, this will never happen again. I was like, how do you know that? No, it's fine. No, this is a one-off. And I was like, oh, geez, like, you probably can't be sure about that, to be honest, Mr. B. But and that's just the way it is. Incredibly resilient people. Obviously, a little bit later afterwards, there was dreadful flooding in Durban. And again, to give an insight, like, the road that I traveled to work on, the bridge was washed out. I'll tell you a story about that as well. Like, our neighborhood watch group, there was a crocodile farm at the top of the river, and this message went out: listen, 12 crocodiles have escaped, so just be careful, right? So there's some crocodiles knocking around. Anyway, this was going on for a couple of days, and we got another message saying, listen, one of the crocodiles has actually made it into the estate, but it's under control. Now, when I say it's under control, I went down to have a look, right? And there was a guy sitting down there with a deck chair just looking at the crocodile. And I was like, oh, what are you doing? He said, I'm just keeping an eye on him here, And that was their concept of this is under control. Anyway, after about 10 days, we got a message saying, listen, everything is sweet. 14 crocodiles have been captured and they're back up at the farm. I was like, there's only 12 escaped. So obviously there's been fucking two crocodiles knocking around for the previous 12 months or whatever it was. But anyway, the bridge that I went to work with, that bridge was washed out, right? So we're like, okay, listen, the bridge is washed out. It'll be fixed. Whatever. 18 months later, I left, and the bridge is still washed out, and you still have to go around and go a different way to work. So, and again, nobody complains. They just, that's it. Okay, we'll get on with it. And as I said, it gives a little bit of an insight into the mindset of the rugby players, that mindset of the people, I guess. It's, remarkable, I suppose.
So I'm guessing as a maths
my
teacher.
second question, and I'll keep it short. Sorry, James. My second question, no, and I'll keep it short. Do you still consider yourself an accidental coach?
Yeah, I'm certainly an accidental rugby coach, I suppose, is probably what I would say. I think I would have found coaching in some form. Yeah, whatever that might have been, I'm not sure. I started college. I did law when I left school, and I just always, I'm not sure why. I just wanted to go back and do PE teaching. I love sport. I love teaching. I love coaching, and that's pretty much as simple as it is for me. I'm in the unique situation where I probably never really feel I've worked a day in my life. I come from a farming background. I love farming as well. It's a good question. I guess I am an accidental coach. It is an unusual set of circumstances that has led to me where I am. But equally, at this point, it's my life's work.
I'm so sorry. I only asked you because I'm quoting you from an article in the Irish Examiner. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah. No, and I've been asked quite a few times about that same article, but I guess it is how I felt, and it probably is how there was never really any deliberate design in terms of trying to get here or trying to get there or trying to get wherever. It just kind of happened the way it is. But I do feel ultimately I would have been involved in coaching at some stage, in some sport or some form.
Just a question, two questions actually from people on the Facebook page.
Yeah.
The first one, is rugby as much of a religion in South Africa as the Bucks supporters claim?
Good question.
Yeah, it's a good question.
That's Mike Reedy. That's Mike.
Man, Mike.
Yeah, it's certainly the Springboks are certainly a big deal. There's absolutely no question or doubt about that. And you've got to look at it on the face of it for the people to attend the games, because the attendances aren't brilliant. That's the reality. You look at Cape Town Stadium or you look at it, but the reality is the poverty, the social inequality that exists in the country. It's not accessible for everybody. Equally, soccer is a massive sport in South Africa. I think there's absolutely no question or doubt about that. But there is a certain affinity to the Springboks, and I think it has. I think somebody like Sia has certainly transcended, the sport, and it has brought the country together in ways that maybe other areas haven't. Yeah, it's certainly very powerful, I don't think it's an easy question just to measure, because, as I said, if you look at the attendances on any given weekend, it's not fanatical, it's not massive. Even when the Stormers were going really well and winning the URC, the crowds were okay. They were okay, but it's very difficult for the people. It's very difficult for people, even though the tickets aren't expensive. In European terms, they are for people in South Africa. And I think there were some very poor throwaway comments made by people at times, even around the Munster game, and people are giving away tickets for nothing here. They're €3, but €3 is a lot of money to people in South Africa. And I think that's something that we struggle to get our heads around, really, to be honest, Claire. It is a difficult one. So a long-winded answer, I guess. But it is a big deal. I think the Springboks are very powerful in terms of what it can do for the country, I suppose.
So the second, Claire's after popping off there, but the second question I think she probably was going to ask you, Noel, is what's it like coaching the future players for the Ireland senior team since you were under-20s coach? And that's from Gregor Galway.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, it really is. And I take a huge amount of pride in when the World Cup squad was announced. And looking at the players, and not just the Irish 20s. Obviously, the likes of Joe McCarthy and Jack Crowley from 2020, 2019. I think it's Ryan Baird and Craig Casey. 2018, despite it being an incredibly difficult year, you see Caelan, Dan Sheehan, Ronan Keller, Tom O'Toole, but there's lots of guys that I would have worked with at under 18 schools, at UCD, Irish rugby is a small place, and it's incredibly parochial, I guess, absolutely thrilled for the players, and disappointed for some guys that for a variety of different reasons didn't make it, or for whatever reason weren't able to take that step. But yeah, very, very, very happy and very proud of all the players that have been selected, and very excited for what the next few weeks brings as well. And I think that's probably where everybody is. I think there's a real excitement about the World Cup building, and a real excitement about that first game, I guess. New Zealand, France, and everything else that follows after that. It's going to be absolutely incredible, I think.
Yeah, bringing it on, coming on then to the game in question. We have France versus New Zealand coming up on Friday, and just wanted to get your thoughts on the Bastien Charleroi scenario there. Basically, what I've seen, on social media is that it's Murray Kinsella and Dad said, this is a growing story. It's becoming an issue. Do you feel on the ground, Noel, that there's a chance that something like this could absolutely massively derail what France are trying to do? We've always when you look at physically and technically at the way France, or the way I'd look at them, they've strength in numbers, they've got strength in depth, and they have a fantastic game plan. They're fantastic to watch. As an underage coach myself, I'd be kind of saying, follow Dupont, what he does in the game, always a support lines. Do you feel that something like this could be the scenario where the French are shooting themselves in the foot, or do you think this will be managed and will it go away?
Yeah, I'm not sure, Peter, to be honest. First and foremost, obviously the accusation is pretty abhorrent. But equally it's ongoing, and there's a process in place, and you'd have to imagine that all of that has been taken into consideration. So I don't really know. I don't know. It is ongoing, and obviously there was that incident with Macron, which is a bit bizarre in its own way during the course of the week. I think it definitely does give an insight into where France see the game, and probably see the threat, that they're prepared to even consider this. Obviously, with Charleroi, he's 2.2 meters, he's 124 kgs. I think, when you look at the top 14, a lot of the players of that profile, you look at Will Skeleton, obviously, is Australian. You look at Mia Fu, he's unavailable at the moment. And I think, France are obviously going hard at the set piece. It's a big part of their game. They're pretty tied into how they play as well, if that makes sense. And I think all the best teams are, all the best teams know their story at this point. I think anyone that's going into the World Cup trying to discover their game, as we probably see maybe with England, they're probably in trouble, and there's no coincidence that the favourites for the world.
Shite. Just stop it, or that. Jesus Christ!
Yeah.
Stop
waiting
it.
for them to win.
Jesus.
But that's exactly my point. I think anyone that knows their story and knows what they're about and knows how they're playing, so it's difficult then to change that. It's difficult to go from being, okay, this is how we play, we're going to completely change, and we're going to go a completely different direction. So I think the reality with France is they are heavily reliant on the genius of Dupont. They were reliant on the genius of Intermac. They probably can replace that with Jalibert. Their set piece is incredibly important. Their defense is incredibly important. They need to score quickly. They will not score after long periods of possession. They will not chase high ball and play. They will have some strikes, but they're very different to how in Ireland will go about their business, and equally probably South Africa as well. So I think, it gives a little bit of an insight into their mindset, I think, and the importance that they're placing on size and dealing with the power game, and where they see their own power game being at. For me, as I said, the accusation itself is pretty abhorrent, and I don't know all the ins and outs of it, obviously, and as I said, the process is still ongoing. So it's a difficult one. It's certainly evident here, but my French isn't at the stage that I understand all the media and the reports either. So and I think as well he hasn't been selected for that first game. Obviously,
No.
Flamon and Cameron Wokey are involved. So, yeah, I guess it's one we'll just have to watch.
Sorry, no, I beg your pardon. I didn't mean to cut across you. Pete, I'll read you something about this, what the question you just asked, right? And I quote, this is from the BBC website, from that Charlotte or wherever his name is. He said, I'll keep this brief. I wanted to come out in public and address all my teammates and my family, as it does not just affect me, it affects my family. This is why I wanted to appear before you to clarify the situation. I am not a racist. I bring people together. The beauty of rugby is it brings people together from all communities. True. Charlotte was sentenced for assaulting two other players, Yannick Legeret and Nassim Arif, after a night out in 2020, with the court in Toulouse stating the attack was carried out because of the race of the victims. The lock admitted the assault, but denied it was racially motivated. Now, I would throw it out to the group here that if that was an Irish player, we're well aware of what happened here, he'd be struck off and wouldn't play for the country again. There you
go. But okay, we're talking about, but New Zealand have had players that have been charged and have like that still play for the squad. So is it that the thing that we start going, when do rugby teams start becoming judge, jury, and executioner? I'm not. This is just in my head. How high of the standard is the standard of play? Is it he is the best player they have, so therefore they need him, or is it that he was found guilty in a court of law?
He got a 6 months suspended sentence.
Yeah, but I know he was. But people, you forgive people for what they have done. This is now. I'm just throwing these ideas out because I don't really know much about it.
The Irish don't forgive people what they did.
Yeah, well, the Irish people don't forget. We're Irish. We never forget.
No.
That's it. Sorry, Pete. Go on.
Sorry, Ben.
You're all right. You're all right. No, I was just going to ask there just to finish your point, Noel. So, just getting into the actual team selections that have come out today. Who do you fancy then for the game on Friday night? How do you see it going?
I think, listen, as somebody that has taken many teams to France, it's very, very difficult to beat the French at home. I think that will carry across, for the whole tournament. I think France will win. I think, the power of emotion, the power of the build up here has been incredible. And I think that the quality that they have, albeit there are fault lines here, you know what I mean? There's no question about that. Cyril Boy is a massive loss, I think Willemse is a loss. I think, obviously Roman Intamak is a loss as well. So it's probably, not on the level of Dupont, and I think if they were to lose Dupont, I think it would be a state of national disaster. But yeah, I just feel, and I admire New Zealand. I don't think the New Zealand South Africa most recent game in Twickenham was. I don't think it was even a game really. I know it was remarkable, lots of what we saw from South Africa. But you look at the performances in the Rugby Championship were very different. It almost it looked like South Africa were absolutely desperate to play and desperate to win, and it looked like New Zealand really didn't want to be there. So signs on New Zealand come out with a couple of injuries as well. But yeah, for me, I think France will have too much for New Zealand, I'm not sure how close it will be. I just feel France definitely for me. Yeah.
Do you think Noel? Do you think that the All Blacks are going to go after the point?
Listen, I think of course, you know what I mean, but how do you go after him? Everyone is seeing his physical manhandling on the fence. Everyone is seeing his ability to bounce people on attack. He's physically incredibly strong. So I've no doubt they'll try and get him on the ground. I've no doubt they'll try and slow him down. I've no doubt they'll try and put some pressure on him. But I also think as well, you're probably kidding yourself a little bit if you think that that's just what they have. I think, we've seen Damien Penaud obviously is signed here in Bordeaux, but he's one of the best finishers in world rugby, and he's capable of creating things out of very, very little. Obviously Dante is a loss, but I do think Mo Fana and Gail Fiku have played a lot together. They've built up a good understanding, like Thomas Ramos, we played against Toulouse in the quarterfinal of the Champions Cup this year, and he's just he's just an incredibly good player, to be honest. I think to answer your question, James, I do think they'll try and put as much pressure as they possibly can on him, but it's not like as if he's never had to deal with that before. Pretty much every weekend somebody tries to put a mark on him and someone tries to shut him down. So it'll be interesting how they negate their kicking game, and Dupont obviously is a pretty important part of that. You see him upfield a lot, very, very smart, knows the laws of the game very well, is able to, manipulate referees or whatever way you want to describe that. But it'll be interesting to see how New Zealand go about that, because it is the one thing about France, they're risk adverse. They don't take risks. You know what I mean? I know everyone likes to categorize French as being flair and counter-attacking and everything else, but the reality is they're an incredibly pragmatic team, I think if both teams adopt that approach, that's the way the game will play out, and it will be pragmatic. It will be test match. It will be who cracks first, that in itself is fascinating. But I just still feel just at home in Paris they'll just have too much,
So could this be the first game and the last game of the World Cup?
Listen, I think the four teams are clear. I mentioned already, teams that know their story. I think Ireland know their story. I think South Africa know their story better than anybody, probably. I think Ireland know their story. I think New Zealand, and I think France. I think they're the four teams. I think ultimately it will boil down to those. Obviously, I would love to see Ireland being involved in that. And there's questions for them to answer as well. But ultimately, they've found the answers over the course of the last number of months. So. I really feel South Are going to have a big say in this, James. No matter what way you look at it, we fancy the Irish front row, but there's an argument that South Africa have the two best front rows in world rugby. Whatever way you look at it, Stephen Kitsoff, Malcolm Marx, Franz Malherbe. I can only imagine what training is like. Going up against Ox Nietzsche, Bongi Mbonambi, and Trevor Niakane, and by the way, Vincent Koch is holding the camera, Thomas Dutoit is at home watching on the TV, waiting to see if somebody gets injured. So it's absolutely remarkable, really. The strength and depth that they have there. It'll come from those four, I believe. I think you can't understate the importance of who plays France in the quarterfinal here. And equally, maybe the pressure becomes too much. I coached Irish 20s in 2018, and they were talking about the World Cup in 2023. I don't think they even had it at that stage, but back then, the plan was clear. Those French under 20 teams, they were absolutely clear on where they were going. I remember the first year we played, Jalibert didn't even play. Jalibert was playing for the French national team at the time. Roman Intimac was the 10. We played them in Bordeaux in the first round of the Six Nations, and we played them in the first round of the World Cup in Perpignan. And the transformation in the players in whatever that 5-6 months was absolutely incredible. I remember we were there in Stade Amélie-Jurel on the back pitch, getting ready for the warm-up, and we saw these lads running around, Demba Bamba, Jordan Joseph, Cameron Wokey, and they all looked like senior internationals at that point, and Ireland has come a long way, I think, at underage level, and I think the under 20s, their growth has been remarkable over the last 4 or 5 years. But yeah, that was a real awakening, I guess, at that point, because they had literally just said, no, we've spent the last 5 months preparing for this World Cup. and everything pointed towards the 2023 when these boys are going to be coming into their peak. And you know, a lot of the time, a lot of those players don't come true. You know, you look at an under 20 team. You know, the throughput of French players, it's remarkable. Like the guys that have come true from that team that are now entering their 24, 25, it's amazing, really is, you know. And obviously I think they won 2 in a row under 20 World Championships. They won 2 Six Nations at under 20 level, and yeah, a lot of these players played in it.
Just going to bring this is a question there that you've seen as you brought up about what South Africa bring to the table, and they know their story in Ireland, knowing theirs. Just a kind of a fairly kind of straight question, Noel. Which you feel what's going to trump the other at this World Cup? Will it be brains or will it be brawn? When I say the brains, will that be the skill factor, the X factor, or will it be just out and out bulk, power, muscle? What do you feel? Just, you know, seeing as we're talking about Ireland and we're talking about South Africa, which do you feel is going to trump? Which will be the theme? Which will be the overriding? Which teams are going to be the power teams or the wit and the skill teams? Which do you feel is going to have hold sway at this World Cup?
I think you can probably put it down to power and possession. So, like, I think Ireland are a possession team. I think that's what they do. They keep the ball. They look for fault lines. They're smart. Exactly as you said. I think the power teams obviously are the power teams. But for me, I think it's unfair to say that's just what they have. They're incredibly technically accurate. They're incredibly technically good at what they do. And like the set piece stuff for South Africa is phenomenal. You know, and you look at the second half of the New Zealand game last week, you know, obviously New Zealand were able, albeit probably illegally, defend the Maul, but then first 2 plays of the second half, down the front, down the back, 2 tries, boom, game's gone. So I think it'll be the team that deals best with the other team's strength and is able to impose themselves. So, like, I think for Ireland against South Africa, it will be their ability to deal with the set piece, both teams. So, like, the problem is, like, obviously, as the game goes on, you feel, okay, the space is going to start to open up and we're going to get a little bit of respite and everything else. And then you look at the bench and you look what's coming on. You know, you look at those names you mentioned already, but, like, they're also coming on with RG Snyman behind them. So I think it will be, and I've no doubt that will be South Africa's philosophy. It's all well and good saying you're going to keep the ball and keep possession, but try doing that when, you know, your playmakers are your Porter, your Tyg Furlong, your hooker. You know, well, for your hooker, we're going to ensure that every scrum, every maul is an absolute slugfest, that he's going to be so tired, he's going to be so fatigued in his legs, and he's not going to be able to run those lines off the back of lineouts. He's not going to be able to run the peels. He's not going to be able to make 35, 40 meter line breaks down the touch lines because he's going to have lactic acid after 30 minutes. And that's the fascinating battle, I think, that is there. So who will be able to impose what? It will depend on whether they can stand up, I think, to the other side of it. You know, obviously for Ireland, for New Zealand, they will try and run them. They'll try and take the legs out of them a little bit. So when it gets a set piece, that it's more of a respite for their forwards and vice versa. So yeah, I think that's the fascination that we would have. There's obviously other little bits and pieces tied into it, the mental side of it, the home pressure for France, for Ireland. It's you know, that piece around the quarterfinal for South Africa. It's no team has ever gone back to back. So yeah, there's probably little bits and pieces of pressure for all of the teams, really, to be honest. So whoever deals best with that as well, I guess. And there is also a little bit of luck thrown in there. You know, there is a little bit of luck with injuries, I think, and yeah, you'd have to feel like the refereeing is going to play a part, so the team that can adapt best to that. You know, I know teams have gone to I bumped into the Fiji coaches today, and Glenn Jackson, the former referee, is their attack coach. You know, so like obviously there's lots of teams here in the top 14 that have brought referees in as coaches or as consultants. A lot of teams, you know, John Lacey did it with us with the Irish 20s that come in because it's such an important part of the game, and a team that can minimise the access, you know, particularly playing a power team. You know, if you give 14, 15 penalties, you're going to struggle against the power team.
Can I just point something out there? You said no team went back to back. They did, 2011, 2015, New Zealand.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Of course, South Africa.
I was kind of going. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. So told me to point out the mistake, but I was kind of saying, did I really watch them two
you're
finals?
fine.
Or yeah,
There you
But
go.
I think that is
No,
that is their
Claire, you're
challenge, and I think
just
that's what
saying.
they're trying to do.
well, what can I say? I got you right.
Danny Brosnan has woken up. Danny Brosnan has woken up, but the subtitles have not kicked in yet.
No, they haven't.
Danny,
I understood what he said.
Danny, seeing as we have your attention, do you want to give us a very brief rundown what you think is going to happen on Friday evening, France versus New Zealand?
Judging by the two teams that have actually come out at the moment, I'd say it'll be a close enough battle. But I'd say with some of the French players missing, especially Ntamak, and probably some of the controversy going on with that player at the moment, and the fact that New Zealand got their biggest feat to South Africa recently. New Zealand are going to be going over all guns blazing. They want to erase that loss over South Africa. They want to show it as a hiccup. They want to get into hit the ground running, so to speak, against going to this World Cup. So I'd say we will see a New Zealand team that will be literally going out there all guns blazing, and it could be a bigger winning margin for them than expected. So I'm going for New Zealand winning that one anyway.
Okay.
Just what I'm seeing of this.
Good enough. Claire, go on. Your
My Tuppence vote is with Ramos on the pitch. Every penalty that France are given, they will try and take. Because you have, and I think Mike Reedy stated this as well, you have Ramos kicking against Mwanga. Mwanga is a good kicker, but he's not as good as Ramos. So any penalty that France get that is within Ramos's range, which is nearly the whole pitch, they will take. So I reckon it will probably come down to how many penalties that will be given away by New Zealand, because France will take them. France will kick and kick and kick for the penalties.
Okay, James Grennan, your views?
Yeah, to be honest, I wouldn't put a lot of mass on the South Africa New Zealand warm up game. I couldn't see New Zealand showing their hands, in a warm up game. It's a nothing game. They will come out to win this game, no doubt about it. But I think, and I've said it in the comments in before we came on air here, that I think it'll be a 3-point win for France. I think it's going to be a very close game, and I cannot wait. It's mouth-watering. It's going to be absolute cracking, I hope. To your point, Noel, though, you said, it could be a little bit cagey. They're going to be very clinical, or going to be very cagey, and they'll be waiting for the opening. So I just hope we see a lot of running rugby and a lot of action and a good game. But I think 3-point win for France.
Okay, Peter Burke.
Yes. Yes. Oh, yeah.
Great answer, Peter. Great answer.
Look, this is it's a who comes first and second in the group, because it doesn't really fucking matter, because the other three teams are fucking irrelevant, right? France, the game, I think this game will be won at 6. What am I looking at here? 6, 7, 8. Yes. Aldred against Surveyor. A tough battle. Both great players. You've got Olivion against Sam Kane at 7. Then you've got Kroos against Papali on 5 or 6 or whatever it is. Like, both, I think, both teams actually, depending on the next round, they don't really give a shit about who wins this. Like, it'll be a great competition, and they show off their skills, and Dupont do a thing, and he'd flick his hair, and he'd do a thing, and he'd flick a ball, and he'd flick a forward, and he'd do all this, and it'll be great. And then Surveyor will do something, and Jesus, what's your man's name? Aaron Smith, the scrum half, will do something else, and then it'll all be to and fro, and like, it's just, it's an exhibition game for me, because it doesn't really impact the whole World Cup, because one of them, it'll be 1-2 or 2-1 or whatever the hell it is, and it just, France might win it because of the home crowd and all this. New Zealand bouncing off that last defeat to South Africa, but it doesn't really fucking matter, to be honest with you. It doesn't matter who wins this. You know, it goes on to the next round, and you know, personally, I'm looking forward to watching the game. I think it'd be a great game, but you know, who gives a fuck who wins it? Really, the genuine. You know,
We all do.
saying that, like, it doesn't matter who wins it. Like, it's a 1-2. Who comes first? Who comes second? You know, there you go. Anyway,
And I would just add at this point, I think Andy Farrell will be very interested to see who wins this, because the winner of this game will ultimately
you're right, Pete. Yeah.
will ultimately be, you know, it could determine where it could decide and form part of thinking where we're going to end up. The other game that's on that particular in Pool A is Italy versus Namibia. I don't think there's any much point really talking a whole pile about it. We know Namibia are amateurs. Italy are reasonably decent, and I think it's fair to say Italy probably wins. So moving on to Pool B games, our own opener against Romania. Noel, I'll come to you first as the guest. We've seen Romania have been absolutely awful in the warm-up games, and we know, I was reading an article there that Jason Tamani, who's Joe's brother, is a centre for Romania. And you know, they've a couple of imports playing for them. Do you feel that, you know, the fact that Ireland don't have 3 players apparently ready for Romania, is that something to be slightly concerned about, seeing as we're trying to build towards our strongest team possibly for the final 2 group matches?
No.
Okay.
That's just like, there you go.
We have an answer.
Lovely short sweet answer. I love that answer.
Yeah. No, listen. We can talk about the Bucharest Saracens all we want, but like, Ireland will have much too much. You know, it's a difficult one, really, and obviously there's talk about expanding the tournament, but I think Romania will really struggle here. Obviously, there's interest in it. You know, for me, I'm interested because it's on in Bordeaux. But also, it's Johnny's first game, and you want to build some confidence. You want to build some cohesion and everything else. But Ireland will have. They're just have much too much.
Okay, James Grennan.
Well, now, look, I mean, we could turn up to the Romanian management team and say, "Hey, listen, we'll give you a tenner to fucking throw the game." Yeah, we'll take it. Yeah, grant that piece. That's piece everyone for a year. It's not compatible.
Jesus, you're racist.
Whole pile of trouble for this and stuff like that.
No. Stuff like the wage. I'm just looking at the money imbalance. Sure, Samoa had to sell their fucking rugby jerseys there about 7 or 8 years ago to get back home, for Christ's sake. That's the point I'm making. I'm not being racist. I'm not. That's not what I'm doing.
Anyway, James,
I do think in terms of the tournament,
James,
Romania are obviously probably at the bottom end. I think the likes of Samoa, Fiji. I think there is certainly a lot of quality in the tier 2 nations, and I think it's unfortunate the way it has played out. I think Andy Robinson was heavily involved with Romania in their qualifying. Obviously, there was the incident with Spain in terms of Spain had originally qualified and had the ineligible player and were subsequently expelled from the tournament. So it's unfortunate, I think, is what I would say. And I think there has been progress made, and we've obviously seen that with Japan, and I think we will see it with Fiji at a big loss today, the 10 months. Caleb Muntz unfortunately misses out, but I do feel this is it is what it is. Yeah.
But no, can I ask you a question? No, can I ask you a question? You're talking about progress. Have Italy seemed to be a team that takes 1 step forward and 2 steps back? Would that be a fair assessment of where Italy are?
Yeah, I guess there are factors at play in all of that as well. And obviously I've seen Italy and the progress that they have made at underage level, at under 20 level in particular, and obviously there's an Irish guy, Steve Aboud, was over there involved with them and did fantastic work with them. A lot of development took place, and Italy went. Obviously I don't know if people are aware, but like Scotland don't compete at under 20 level at the top table anymore. You know, they're involved in the trophy now. Like regularly, Italy finish in the top 8, Georgia finish in the top 8, so you would hope that would translate through. But unfortunately, the nature of Italian rugby, they change the presidents. The president comes in, he has a different view of how it should be run, and he kind of changes the whole direction that things are going. So you know, I think you're right in some of it. You know, they do an awful lot of good things. They make a lot of progress. You look at a team like Benetton, who, you know, they went and won the Rainbow Cup, albeit I'm not quite sure what the Rainbow Cup maybe stood for in COVID times, but you're waiting for these guys to make the next step. And I think, you know, this year, I think the Italian under-20s are very, very competitive. I think, I'm not sure, did they beat England or I'm pretty sure they did, actually.
I think they did, yeah.
Seeing a rousing speech by their captain at one stage about no longer being reminded me of Anthony Daly. We're no longer the whipping boys of Munster, but I think that there is definite progress there. It's frustrating that they can't capitalize on it and take it through to the next level. And that's you're right. You know, but the players, the likes of Michel Lamaro, the likes of Daniel Fischietti, the 10 at Montpellier, whose name escapes me, Paulo Garbisi. You would have to imagine that you know, over the course of the next 3-4 years, if they can get it right, that's the big if. You know, you'd probably feel that.
No, we would have said that 10 years ago about Italian rugby.
Is it politics coming into play? Is it politics behind the scenes coming into play against the players are good, but it's the Italian Rugby Football Union or whatever it's called. It's the politics behind that's not letting the team progress to where they should be with the players they have.
Yeah, I'm not sure of the politics of it. I do know, as I said, the president tends to have a lot of a say in terms of how the union is run, and that changes every number of years, and then the direction can completely change off the back of that. So, like, you know, you can have directives come in where, you know, I know the under-20 team, they went with a national academy. That was the direction that they went with Steve. They made a lot of progress in the coaching, in the development of young players, and I know that now they've gone back the direction around the clubs and the top 10 and everything else. So, you know, the thing you would say, like, you need consistency from top to bottom of an organization. You need to be clear on what you're about. You need to be clear on what you're trying to do. And you know, people ask all the time around Leinster, what is the success at Leinster? You know, you can argue the success if you want, but like, the reality is, from the top of the organization to the bottom of the organization, I think they're very, very clear on what they're trying to do and how they're going to try and do it. They're clear on the purpose. They're clear on the identity. They're clear on what they're about, and I think it's one of the real strengths of the organization. I think that's probably the case in all of the provinces. So, and I think that's probably the biggest issue in Italy is maybe just, yeah, how did they get to that point? But equally, you know, the one thing I would say is, you know, you look at players that toiled for Ireland, and I know people have referenced this before. You know, what was their success? Well, their success was making success a little bit more achievable and a little bit more attainable, because, you know, it wasn't always going in as a number one ranked team in the world into World Cups. You know, so I think lots of the teams that preceded made that success a little bit more attainable and a little bit more achievable. So, you know, you would hope, and I know Conor O'Shea spoke about that at one point. He was being one of those Irish players, and that was the goal with the current Italian team. It's very difficult to go from where you are now to, you know, winning the World Cup or winning the Six Nations. So how do you make those steps? Well, you make those steps by, you know, how do you eat an elephant? Well, you take the first bite and then you take the second bite, and that's probably what they need to do. But unfortunately, consistency is not particularly glamorous or not particularly sexy in lots of these instances. And unfortunately, if you're going to be a president for 3 years or 4 years, well, then the long-term success, so like success in 15 years' time, it might not necessarily be a massive priority for you.
Yeah.
Just when you were talking about eating the elephants there, Noel, reminded me, I spent a number of months working out in Thailand with a company there, and I was trying to explain to the team, you know, how we were going to, how we were going to join, get from where we were to what we're doing. I asked the question, how do you eat an elephant? And then, we don't eat elephants.
Yeah. Grossly inappropriate question.
Yeah.
Deadly stuff. No, we're just coming back to the Ireland Romania match. Just your own thoughts, James, as regards, what's going to happen. Like, we're going to have a team announcement tomorrow. Look, I think like Noel has kind of said an awful lot of it, really, that Romania, they're the worst team in the competition, probably through no necessarily fault of their own, but they're here and we have to play them and we have to get on with it. I suppose is it fair to say we just want to get through it? 60-point win. Johnny gets minutes and get out of there with no injuries.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we're going to get probably 60+ point win, and as long as there's no significant injuries, somebody doesn't get creeled, get a concussion because there's a poor tackle technique from Romania. That's the biggest fear for me. Just hope we get out of it clean.
Yeah, Peter Burke, your thoughts, please.
Yeah, it'd be fine. It'd be grand. No worries.
All right, Claire.
Yeah, and I agree with an awful lot of what people are saying on the thing as well. Go out, get a win, get Johnny time, and come out with no injuries. The Samoan game, kind of with the injuries, especially losing Keane with the injury. Go out and get the win. This is where we need to front up and not have too many injuries.
Okay,
Danny. No injuries, actually, not too many. No injuries whatsoever.
Yeah, Danny, you going to echo that?
Yeah, I'd be happy with that. I'd say it'd be a bonus point win. Like anything, it's just a question of when you get the bonus point. I'd say Farrell and probably Trott maybe not more the squad players. He might give Sexton some bit of time. He might give him 20 minutes, something like that, towards the end, just to give a chance to dust off the cobwebs and maybe give some back some bit of time as well. But or that, I'd say it'd be mainly the same squads you saw against maybe was it Samoa in Italy. I'd say that's what we'll see, but it's going to be a win. It's just a question of how much and when you get the bonus point.
Yeah, that's fair enough. The other I suppose notable game on the weekend really is going to be South Africa versus Scotland. And Peter Burke, you had put it up there that good luck Scotland. With the team that South Africa had put up. Just a question again to you, Noel, is that, and this is something I suppose kind of wondering, the game has moved on since 2019. We know what South Africa did in 2019. Do you think, given your experience with the Sharks, and I suppose there's two questions here, is there a variation between the different South African teams, or is it basically they're all effectively it's cut and paste job as regards the game plan, where from my viewpoint anyway, it's basically beat them up front and the backs get the scraps, and it's very much unstructured counter-attack type rugby? Or is there a little bit more to it there? Is there a bit more nuance this time around to South African rugby?
I don't think there'll be a massive change. I think you will probably see the forwards will be prepared to move the ball a little bit more, but I don't see them deviating massively from what they're about. As I said all along, they know their story, they know what they're good at, they know where their strength lies. There's a little bit of mind games thrown in there with the 7-1 and everything else. So I think they've discovered some real players. I think Kane and Moody's a proper player. Obviously, Curtly Arnsted is a proper player. So they've got some added value with some young backs. It'll be very interesting to see how Manny Libok plays. So that's definitely an interesting selection.
Peter goes him. Peter goes Manny. Peter goes him. Loves him.
Well, it's interesting because it probably wouldn't have been foreseen. I think Grant Williams is a special talent. He's on the bench, obviously, and we had him at the Sharks. He's incredible, really. I expect more of the same. I think, to be honest with you, I think it will be down to dominate. look to dominate Scotland up front. I think Scotland will try and run away. They'll try and get them to the ropes as much as possible, try and play with wit and try and tire them out, and that'll be their plan. And yeah, I don't know if you can run away from South Africa for long enough to make that effective.
Peter's about to extol the virtues.
He's just having a heart attack. He's having a moment.
You can't wait. You can't wait of having two spoofers opposite each other. Russell
get ready for the rant.
And Libach for.
Let's go.
Let's get ready for the rant. This is going to be an epic rant. I can see this.
No, I'm not. No, I'm saying nothing.
You promise?
I
think that's not a promise.
Listen, hold on the fuck will you? Jesus. The idea that Scotland will compete with South Africa, let alone 1-8, but 9-15 is laughable. Now I know we have Scottish people watching this, but listen. You will have, no matter what Gregor Townsend master plan comes up with, right? They're not going to fucking beat South Africa. They will tear you up 1-8. They will hammer. They will go after that spoofer Finn Russell. It's a no fucking brainer. So we just fucking stop. Scotland go home. Good luck already. Right. South Africa will beat you. You're not going to get out of that group. Hugh Cal, you always a tenor. So
that's just a reference, Noel, by the way, that we had Hugh on previously and we had Royal on, and there was a bit of a bet put down.
Right, okay.
Just to fill you in on that piece there.
Right, okay.
Great bloody show. James Grennan, are you somewhat in agreement with Mr. Burke?
Yeah, to be honest, surprisingly enough, I am. Scotland.
There's a first.
Yeah, there's. I was just looking at Tom English's piece in the Sunday Times, the rugby supplement that was in it. It said Scotland the brave but frail, and
yeah, I read that, James. Yeah, good.
That's brilliant. So the big issue for an entertaining but inconsistent team is whether they can deliver an 80-minute performance, and that sums it up. Scotland will be entertaining, and there will be, Finn Russell will probably have a couple of minutes of magic and he'll do whatever he does, or he'll fall flat in his face. But they won't deliver an 80-minute performance, and South Africa are just going to wipe the floor with them.
Exactly.
Good enough. Danny Brosnan, you share those views?
It'll be a South African win, but I think the biggest battle there will be the battle of the spoofers. See which one's worse, Libach or Russell. Now, I know Burke loves Russell. I know he's number one fan. Russell's is Burke's favourite number 10. I know he's wishing he was playing with Leinster, but if South Africa lose this one, I'll be surprised. I will genuinely be surprised. So,
okay. Yeah. Good stuff. Claire, you're going to book the friends and say that Scotland's going to pull a rabbit out of the hat?
Very much.
An awful lot of South African fans I've seen on social media recently are actually quite fearful. Don't know.
Mind games.
What are they fearful of?
It's mind games. That's what that is.
What are they fearful of?
Finn Russell.
See, let's be honest. That's a kind of, if you want to come out of their group, that's a must-win game for both of them. For South Africa and Scotland to try and come out of their group, it's must get whoever kind of loses that game is kind of going to be playing catch up to come out of the group in second place behind us.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. All right.
That's probably that.
Do you know what, Pete? Actually, sorry, I know you're going to come on. Sorry, Claire. Sorry, Pete. Yeah, the second best game, apart from the opening game, the second best game. Actually, you're probably going to come on to it. Is England versus Argentina?
Yeah, I'm working my way.
Yes, that's going to be a great. That's going to be a great game.
I'm working my way through the different pools, P. Saturdays and Sundays games. So yeah, we're getting there slowly. We won't delay too long.
Fiji and Wales as well.
It won't be too relevant.
No, we're on 58 minutes, Pete.
Yeah. Right. Well, do you know what I'll do then? In that case, I'm going to pick the game which I think I'm really looking forward to. Apart from, some of the games we've watched already is Wales versus Fiji. And Noel,
Fiji, yes.
Yeah.
Great game.
Now, as we know, Fiji being dealt, hopefully not a mortal blow, but a significant blow by losing Caleb Muntz, because he seemed to be a player. Yeah. He seemed to be a proper player at 10. I read today that someone said that he'd be a big loss. He's not a Serevi type player going back in time where he'd be looking to throw some kind of shit. He's not a Finn Russell type player where he's kind of extravagant and trying to win the game on his own. He's a nuts and bolts out half, and he lets his other backs, which are absolute dynamite, do the job. Noel, do you still feel even with the loss of Caleb Muntz that Wales are going to be in significant trouble?
Yeah, I think it's a big challenge, isn't it? Like I think the significance of Fiji, Drua, the team in Super Rugby probably shouldn't be underestimated. I don't know whether the loss of the Sunwolves has had a big impact on Japan, but certainly in terms of cohesion and everything else, it seems to be playing its part. I think Wales will have their fill with Fiji. I really do. I think we haven't spoken about it, but like the forecast for the weekend is very, very hot. Like it's going to be. Now I know Gaddy was out saying how fit Wales are and how fit they are and everything else. They'll need to be fit, They'll need to be fit because I think Fiji will run for days. It's a fascinating game. I think Wales will do what Wales have done. I think Warren Gatland's talent over the years has been to bring teams together. I think he will bring the team together. I think they will have a clear plan. I think it'll be simple. I think it will be similar along the same lines to what they've had previously. But it's certainly going to be a fascinating one for me. I think Fiji will still have enough. I really do. I think just when you go through it, some of the players and you mentioned Radradra and these guys, it's
Okay, Peter
Burke.
Be
the first of the shocks. Will it be a shock?
My own view on that is that it won't be. I think this is coming. This is like once they get their heads around the fact that they've managed to bet England, and if they don't stop, it's a mental thing. I think for them that once they realise England isn't their summit, that they've got an awful lot way further, they can go do more damage. I think that'll make a huge difference. Peter Burke, do you think Fiji are going to turn over Wales on Sunday and make a fool out of Gatland?
Yes.
You do. Excellent stuff.
Well, we're on just an hour, so that's all I'm saying. Just yes.
Yeah.
I think for this one, I think this is going to be the World Cup that the Pacific nations announce themselves.
Yeah.
The likes of Samoa, Tonga, Fiji. I think it's going to be. They may not win it, but they're going to have shocks. And as was said, Fiji and Drua and them coming together, they're gelling. They've taken scalps. They've realised they can take bigger scalps. So I believe it's going to be the World Cup that they do announce themselves.
Okay, James or Danny, do you have anything else to add?
Wales rugby is in turmoil, club level and international level. I know they're racing for the World Cup, but I think Fiji are going to win this one easy.
Yeah. So James, turmoil equals shite.
Yeah.
Go on, Danny.
Danny's still thinking about his answer.
No, same as James.
Okay, folks, now we are an hour and sorry, Pete, we're an hour and 3 minutes. Are you done?
I was just going to briefly cover off the game you were going to mention, and I think we'll knock it in the head of that because there's nothing else really worth talking about. I think England, Argentina. Noel, I'll just go to you once more, seeing as your special guest and all that. I think I'm going to put my name, and this is going to be another. Well, it won't be a shock, I suppose, but I think England are going to get turned over by Argentina. Do you feel the same way with all the? Are England dressed in white shirts?
Yeah, I think I think someone mentioned the club game in Wales. I think the club game in England is in big trouble. Obviously, we've seen it over the course of the last while. I think you have a new coaching group in there that probably haven't hit the ground running. Like Argentina have been inconsistent. That's the one thing you would probably say. In the Rugby Championship, they've been a little bit up and down. But you look at the coaching intellect there as well. Michael Cheika, he's been around the block. Felipe Contepomi, I think, is an excellent coach and did a fantastic job at Leinster. I think Argentina are going to win, to be honest. I don't know. You hear as well, like I mentioned at the start, know your story. Like you hear already, Alex Mitchell has gone from being fourth choice, not in the squad, to starting this weekend. How is that even possible? Marcus Smith is going to play at fullback. You're ripping up the script and you're going, okay, if they decided, and listen, I don't agree, but it's clear Bortwick's philosophy is very simple. It's risk adverse, it's statistic based, it's heavy kicking. Okay, be that, go with that, but it looks like, because Alex Mitchell, that's not his game. Obviously he's a different type of a player, different type of nine. It seems they're probably, in just a funny space. I think there's a great comment come up here about yellow red cards. Argentina keep their discipline, they will win. If they play with 13, 14 players for extended periods of time, that could be a problem. Great point.
Yeah, Claire, have you any thoughts to add on that?
Yeah, no, I think Argentina will. And Argentina decided the group that Argentina are decided the draw that Argentina are coming from. They're definitely going to make semi-final. Definitely. Sure. Yeah. As long as it's not against us, we're okay.
Yeah. James Graham, anything to add?
Yeah, Argentina.
Annie?
Argentina.
Right. And I think you've nailed it as well. Peter, you're saying Argentina.
Yeah, Argentina, yeah.
Going to do
now,
that.
Before we end up, Pete, the final clue for who our guest is next Wednesday. He started every game in the 1993 British and Irish Lions tour of New Zealand. Irish, Leinster, British and Irish Lions player. There you go. There's your clue. He started every game in the 1993 British and Irish Lions tour of New Zealand. There you are.
Noel, if you know the answer, don't blurt it out.
Say nothing.
Thanks, Noel.
Listen, thanks so much, guys. We'll wrap up for this evening. Thanks for everybody for participating. We didn't get to go through everybody's comments there on Facebook, but it's been a fascinating chat and listen to what Noel has brought to us this evening. We'll just basically sign off and say, listen, Noel, thanks so much for coming on.
No, thanks a million.
And best of luck with Bordeaux for the rest of the season. We'll be keeping an eye out. All right.
Thanks very much.
Thanks.
Take care, guys.